The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with angry voices. 12 different alien species sat around the massive circular table, their translators working overtime to keep up with the heated arguments. At the center of it all sat two groups that had been enemies for 30 long years. On the left side, Commander Veltar of the Thermal Alliance slammed his four-fingered hand on the table. His red skin glowed brighter when he was angry, and right now he looked like a living flame. "We will not give up our claim to the ice worlds," he declared. "My people have the technology to harvest those frozen planets. We can melt the ice and extract the precious minerals beneath." On the right side, High Frozen Carathan of the Cryogenic Federation made a sound like breaking glass. Kella's pale blue skin turned almost white with rage as crystals formed in the air around her as she spoke. "Those worlds belong to us. We have lived in cold for millions of years. We understand ice better than any warm-blooded creature ever could." The other council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This same argument had been going on for 3 decades. Both sides claimed they were the best at handling cold environments. Both sides wanted control of the resource-rich ice worlds at the edge of the galaxy. Neither side would back down. Ambassador Jiho sat quietly in the human section, watching the debate with calm eyes. He was young for a diplomat, barely 40 years old, with black hair and a patient expression. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago. Most aliens still thought of humans as primitive newcomers from a dangerous planet. "Thermal Alliance has no right to those worlds," Carathan continued, her voice getting colder with each word. "We can survive in conditions that would kill your people in minutes. We belong on ice worlds." Commander Veltar's skin flared even redder. "Survive? We do not just survive in cold, we conquer it. Our heating technology can turn any frozen wasteland into a productive world. Your people just sit on ice like decorations." Council leader, a tall green creature with too many arms, tried to restore order. "Please, both sides must find a way to compromise. This Cold War is costing everyone too much money and resources." "There is no compromise," Veltar growled. "We are superior in cold weather operations." "You are wrong," Carathan replied. "We are the true masters of frozen environments." The argument went in circles, just like it had for 30 years. Other council members looked bored or frustrated, some were playing games on their personal devices. Others had fallen asleep. Ambassador Jiho finally stood up. The hall grew quiet as all eyes turned to him. Most aliens still saw humans as curiosities from a world so dangerous that other species called it a death world. "Honored council members," Jiho began in his calm voice, "I have been listening to this debate for many hours. Both sides claim they are the best at handling cold environments. What would you know about it, human?" Veltar snorted. "Your people come from a warm planet, probably cannot even survive in real cold." Several aliens chuckled. Humans were known for being tough, but everyone knew they came from a moderate climate world. How could they understand the challenges of ice and snow? Jiho smiled politely. "You are right that Earth has warm regions, but it also has very cold regions. Perhaps both sides would be interested in seeing how humans handle extreme cold conditions." The laughter grew louder. His voice was like ice cracking, humans in cold. "This should be amusing. What do you do? Huddle around fires and wait for spring?" "Not exactly," Jiho replied. "We have developed some interesting techniques for cold weather. We have activities that we do specifically in the coldest conditions." Commander Veltar leaned forward, his skin dimming slightly with curiosity. "Activities? What kind of activities?" "Call them winter sports," Jiho explained. "They are recreational activities that we do only when the weather is at its coldest and most challenging." The aliens looked confused. recreational activities in extreme cold. It made no sense. Most species try to avoid harsh conditions, not seek them out for fun. You mean survival training? Asked a council member from the back. No, Jiho said. I mean activities we do for enjoyment, competition, entertainment. The hall fell silent. The idea that any species would voluntarily go into extreme cold for fun was completely foreign to most of the council members. Karathon spoke first. You are saying that humans go into dangerous cold weather by choice, for pleasure? That is correct, Jiho confirmed. We have been doing this for thousands of years. We have developed techniques and equipment specifically for thriving in cold conditions. Veltar's skin flickered between red and orange. Impossible. No species seeks out harsh conditions for entertainment. Cold is something to be endured or conquered, not enjoyed. I understand your skepticism, Jiho said calmly. That is why I would like to extend an invitation to both the Thermal Alliance and the Cryogenic Federation. The hall buzzed with surprised murmurs. What was the human planning? What kind of invitation? Karathon asked, ice crystals forming around her words. Come to Earth during our winter season, Jiho proposed. See for yourselves how humans handle extreme cold. Watch our winter sports competitions. Judge for yourselves whether we understand cold environments. The aliens exchanged glances. This was unexpected. Most species avoided visiting death worlds like Earth with their dangerous weather and unpredictable conditions. What exactly are these winter sports? Veltar demanded. They are activities that can only be done in freezing temperatures, Jiho explained. Activities that require ice, snow, and cold weather to function. Our athletes train their entire lives to master these skills. Athletes, Karathon repeated. You have people who specialize in cold weather activities? Yes, Jiho nodded. Thousands of them. They compete against each other to see who can perform best in the harshest winter conditions. The council members were intrigued despite themselves. The idea of specializing in harsh conditions was interesting, even if they doubted humans could match the natural abilities of truly cold-adapted species. Very well, Viltar said slowly. The Thermal Alliance accepts your invitation. We will come to see these winter sports, but do not expect us to be impressed. We will show you what real cold weather mastery looks like. Karathon nodded agreement. The Cryogenic Federation also accepts. We will observe your primitive attempts at cold weather survival. Perhaps we can teach you proper techniques. Jiho smiled. Excellent. I will arrange for transportation and accommodations. I think you will find our winter sports very educational. As the council session ended, aliens from both factions whispered among themselves. Most expected to see crude survival techniques at best. They had no idea what they were about to witness. Ambassador Jiho gathered his materials, still smiling. Quietly, he had spent his childhood on the frozen lakes of northern Korea, watching his grandfather play ice hockey. He had seen Olympic athletes push the limits of human endurance in conditions that would terrify most galactic species. The aliens thought they were going to Earth to demonstrate their superiority in cold environments. Instead, they were about to discover that humans had turned survival into art, endurance into entertainment, and danger into pure joy. The stage was set for a revelation that would change galactic politics forever. The alien transport ships landed on the frozen ground with careful precision. Steam rose from their heated hulls as they touched down on the landing pad carved into the Korean mountainside. Through the thick windows, the alien delegates could see nothing but white snow and gray sky stretching in every direction. Commander Veltar was the first to step out of his ship. His advanced heating suit hummed loudly as it worked to keep his body temperature stable. The red glow of his skin dimmed immediately in the cold air. This place is colder than I expected, he muttered to his aide. High frozen Carathin emerged from her vessel with more confidence. Pale blue skin seemed to handle the cold better, but even she had to adjust her environmental suit as crystals formed around her breath as she spoke. At least, it is properly cold, but this wind is strange. It changes direction constantly. Behind them came delegates from 10 other alien species, all bundled in their most advanced cold weather gear. Some wore powered heating suits that glowed with internal energy. Others had thick fur coats that covered their entire bodies. A few had sealed environmental suits that completely protected them from the outside air. They all looked like they were preparing for a dangerous expedition to a hostile world. Walking toward them across the snow came a small group of humans. The aliens stared in shock at what they saw. The humans wore thin jackets, simple pants, and normal shoes. No environmental suits, no heating packs, no protective gear at all. The woman leading the group had short black hair and a warm smile. She approached the aliens with confidence, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. "Welcome to Earth," she said. "I am Dr. Sujin, head of the International Winter Sports Committee. We are honored to have you here." Velter's heating suit worked harder as he studied her. "You are not wearing protective equipment. How are you not frozen?" Dr. Sujin laughed. "This is normal winter weather for us. Actually, it is quite pleasant. Today, the temperature is only 15 degrees below freezing." "Only 15 degrees below," Carathin repeated slowly. Her own people considered anything above -50 degrees to be warm, but they still wore protective gear in conditions like this. "These are my colleagues," Dr. Sujin continued, gesturing to the other humans. "Minho is our alpine skiing coordinator. Yubin manages our ice sports programs. Doyen handles our mountain sports safety." Each human stepped forward with a friendly greeting. None of them seemed bothered by the cold that was making the aliens uncomfortable despite their advanced gear. Minho, a tall man with broad shoulders, noticed the aliens staring at their clothing. "You seem surprised by how we dress. Would you like to know our secret?" "Secret?" Veltar asked. His heating suit was working so hard now that warning lights were flashing on his chest panel. "Layers," Yubin explained. She was a smaller woman, with bright eyes and rosy cheeks. "We wear multiple thin layers instead of one thick layer. It traps warm air and lets us move freely." "But your faces are exposed," protested a delegate from the Thermal Alliance. "How do you not get frostbite?" "Our bodies adapt," Doyen said simply. "We have been living in cold climates for thousands of years. Our blood circulation adjusts, our skin becomes resistant." The aliens exchanged worried glances. Their own species had developed technology to survive in cold, but these humans seemed to have evolved natural defenses. "Come," Dr. Sujin said. "Let us show you our facilities. Be careful on the paths. They can be slippery." As they walked, the aliens discovered that slippery was an understatement. The paths were covered in packed snow and ice that would have been treacherous for most species. But the humans walked normally, her feet finding grip where the aliens saw only dangerous sliding surfaces. Carathin watched Dr. Sujin carefully. "You're not using any traction devices on your feet." "We learned to walk on ice as children," Dr. Sujin replied. "It becomes natural after a while." The first building they entered was a large structure with transparent walls. Inside, the aliens could see a perfectly flat sheet of ice covering the entire floor. Humans in tight-fitting clothes moved across the ice at high speed, but they were not walking. "This is our ice skating rink," Minho explained. "Athletes train here for figure skating and speed skating competitions." Through the glass, they watched a young woman gliding across the ice on thin metal blades attached to her feet. She moved with grace and speed that seemed impossible on such a slippery surface. "She is moving very fast," observed Velta. "Let happens if she falls. She gets up and continues," Yubin said, matter-of-factly. "Falling is part of learning. As if to prove her point, the skater attempted a jumping spin and crashed to the ice. The aliens gasped, expecting to see injury. Instead, the woman simply stood up, brushed off the ice, and immediately attempted the same move again. "She is not hurt?" Karathan asked in amazement. "Athletes learn to fall safely," Doyan explained. "It is a skill we teach from childhood." The tour continued to other buildings. They saw a facility where humans slid down artificial slopes covered in snow, standing on long, thin boards attached to their feet. The aliens watched in horror as the humans deliberately went down steep hills at speeds that would be dangerous for most spacecraft. "This is our ski training facility," Dr. Sujin explained. "Athletes practice downhill skiing here." "They are going down that slope voluntarily?" asked a delegate from the Cryogenic Federation. "Of course," Minho replied. "Steeper and faster, the more exciting it becomes." The aliens were beginning to understand that something was very wrong with their assumptions about humans in cold weather. In another building, they found humans hitting a small black disc with sticks while sliding on ice. The disc moved so fast it was difficult to track with the naked eye. The humans chased it aggressively, often colliding with each other at high speed. "This is ice hockey," Yubin explained. "It is one of our most popular winter sports." "They are hitting each other on purpose?" Belta asked, his heating suit struggling to keep up with his rising stress levels. "It is part of the game," Yubin said. "The players wear protective gear, but some contact is expected." The aliens watched a player take a hard hit and slide across the ice. He immediately got up and continued playing with even more intensity. "Are they trained warriors?" Karathan asked quietly. "No," Dr. Sujin laughed. "Most of them have regular jobs. They play hockey for fun in their free time." "For fun," Karathan repeated slowly as the tour continued. The aliens began to realize that their environmental suits were becoming a liability. The constantly changing conditions of Earth's winter weather were too complex for their automated systems to handle efficiently. Meanwhile, the humans moved through their environment with perfect adaptation. "How do you maintain your equipment in these conditions?" asked a Thermal Alliance engineer. "What equipment?" Doyan asked. "Your heating systems, your environmental controls." Doyan looked confused. "We do not use heating systems outdoors." But these provide the heat." The aliens fell silent. T had come to Earth expecting to see primitive survival techniques. Instead, they were discovering that humans had achieved something their advanced civilizations had never managed. They had learned to thrive in harsh conditions without depending on technology, and they seemed to enjoy it. The realization was beginning to dawn on the alien delegates that they might have seriously underestimated what it meant to be adapted to a death world. The real demonstrations had not even begun yet. The real shock came when Dr. Sujin led the alien delegates outside to the main demonstration area. The wind had picked up, blowing snow across the mountainside. The aliens huddled closer in their protective gear while the humans seemed energized by the harsh conditions. "Now you'll see what we really do in winter," Dr. Sujin announced with a smile. "Our athletes are ready to show you proper winter sports." At the top of a steep mountain slope, a figure in a bright blue suit stood perfectly still. The aliens could barely make out the person through their viewing instruments, but they could see long, thin boards attached to his feet. "That is Hana Wu," Minho explained. "He is one of our best downhill skiers. He will demonstrate alpine skiing for you." Commander Veltar adjusted his viewing device. "He is very high up. How does he plan to get down?" Watch, Dr. Sujin said simply. Without warning, Hyun Woo pushed off from the starting gate. He immediately began racing down the mountain at a speed that made the aliens step back in alarm. His body crouched low as he carved turns through the snow, sending white powder flying behind him. "How fast is he going?" Kyrathan asked, her voice tight with concern. Yubin checked her monitoring device. "It's about 90 kilometers per hour, right?" "Now, he'll go faster on the straight sections. 90 kilometers per hour. Veltar's heating suit began beeping warnings as his stress levels rose. That is spacecraft velocity. He will be killed if he crashes. Crashes happen sometimes, Doyen said calmly. But Hyunwoo is very skilled. He has been skiing since he was 3 years old. The aliens watched in growing horror as Hyunwoo hit a jump and launched into the air. For a moment, he flew through space with nothing but empty air beneath him. Then he landed smoothly and continued down the slope even faster than before. He jumped, Karathon whispered. He deliberately jumped while going that fast. The jumps are the exciting part, Minho explained. Athletes train for years to master them. Kun, we crossed the finish line and came to a stop in a spray of snow. He immediately removed his helmet and waved to the watching aliens with a huge grin on his face. He looks happy, observed a delegate from the Thermal Alliance. Of course he is happy, Dr. Sujin laughed. He just had a perfect run. That is what we call fun. The aliens were still processing this when they were led to another area. Here, a young woman in a sparkling costume stood on the ice. She had the same thin metal blades on her feet that they had seen earlier, but she was alone on the frozen surface. This is Nari, you've been introduced. She will show you figure skating. Nari began to move across the ice with fluid grace, but this was nothing like the simple skating they had seen in the training facility. She spun in place so fast that she became a blur, then suddenly stopped and changed direction without any visible effort. How many rotations per second is she achieving? Asked a cryogenic Federation scientist. About 6 rotations per second in her fastest spins, Dr. Sujin replied. The aliens quickly calculated the forces involved. That should cause her to lose consciousness, the scientist protested. No organic being can handle that much rotational force. Nari has been training since she was 5, Yubin explained. Her body has adapted to the stress. As they watched, Nari launched into a series of jumps that defied everything the aliens understood about physics and biology. She spun through the air multiple times before landing on one thin blade, then immediately transitioned into another impossible move. She is balancing her entire body weight on a blade less than 4 millimeters wide, Karathon observed in amazement. While spinning at dangerous speeds, Veltar added. While making it look beautiful, Dr. Sujin said proudly. The demonstrations continued, each one more shocking than the last. The aliens watched humans in a sport called bobsled, where teams of 4 people climbed into what looked like a guided missile and raced down an ice track at speeds over 150 kilometers per hour. Any collision at that speed would be fatal. A Thermal Alliance engineer calculated out loud. That is why we built the tracks very carefully, Doyan said. Safety is important, but so is speed. But the moment that truly shattered the aliens' understanding came when they were shown ice hockey. 2 teams of humans faced off on the ice, each player carrying a stick and wearing heavy protective gear. This is different from what we saw earlier, Karathon observed. This is full contact hockey, Yubin explained. The players can use their bodies to stop opponents. What followed was unlike anything the aliens had ever witnessed. The humans moved across the ice at high speed while passing a small rubber disc between them. When opponents got in the way, they deliberately collided with tremendous force. Players Temin and Ji-won demonstrated a particularly hard hit. Kani. Temin was carrying the disc when Ji-won skated directly into him. The collision sent both players sliding across the ice in opposite directions. The sound of the impact made several aliens flinch. They are both injured, Veltar said with certainty. But both players immediately got up, shook themselves off, and continued playing with even more intensity than before. They are not hurt, asked a confused delegate. That was a clean hit, Minho explained. Both players knew it was coming. They know how to take impacts safely. Safely. Carathan's voice cracked like breaking ice. As they collided at over 30 kilometers per hour. Hockey players are tough, Dr. Sujin said with obvious pride. The aliens watched the game continue with growing disbelief. Players were checked into the walls, knocked down, and hit with sticks. Each time they got up and kept playing. Some even seemed to enjoy the physical contact. Do they train for combat? Asked a military advisor from the Thermal Alliance. No, Yubin replied. Most of these players have regular jobs. This is just their hobby. Hobby, Beltar repeated weakly. The final demonstration nearly broke the aliens' ability to process what they were seeing. A snowboarder named Sung Ho stood at the top of a half-pipe, a curved structure that looked like it had been designed for torture. What is he going to do? Carathan asked nervously. Watch, Dr. Sujin said. Seung. Ho dropped into the half-pipe and immediately began building speed. He rode up one wall, launched into the air, performed a spinning flip, and landed perfectly. Then he rode to the other wall and repeated the process, this time adding more spins and flips. He is flying through the air upside down, observed a delegate in shock. While spinning on multiple axes, added another. While attached to a board with his feet, Veltar whispered. Each trick became more complex. Stung Ho twisted and flipped through the air in ways that should have been impossible for any creature with a skeleton. Yet he landed each maneuver perfectly and immediately set up for the next one. How does he know which way is up when he is spinning like that? Asked a Cryogenic Federation observer. Practice, Doyan said simply. Lots and lots of practice. The demonstrations concluded. The aliens stood in stunned silence. They had come to Earth expecting to see primitive survival techniques. Instead, they had witnessed humans voluntarily performing acts that would terrify the most elite warriors of their own species. These are your recreational activities, asked slowly. Yes, Dr. Sujin confirmed. We do these things for fun, for competition, for the joy of pushing our limits. Commander Veltar's heating suit had given up trying to regulate his stress levels. You seek out the most dangerous possible conditions and then make them more dangerous by adding speed and tricks. That is correct, Yubin agreed cheerfully. And you enjoyed this? We love it, Dr. Sujin said with genuine enthusiasm. Winter sports are some of our most popular activities. Millions of humans participate in them every year. The aliens looked at each other with new understanding. They had been fighting over who could better survive in cold environments. Today's humans were not just surviving in the cold. They were using it as a playground. They were turning conditions that would challenge the most advanced alien technology into entertainment for their children. The Cold War between the Thermal Alliance and Cryogenic Federation suddenly seemed very small and very pointless. These humans had mastered something that neither alien faction had even imagined was possible. They had learned to find joy in the very conditions that other species feared most. The aliens finally understood that they were not just visiting another planet. They were witnessing a completely different way of thinking about the universe itself. The alien delegates sat in stunned silence in the warm conference room. Outside, snow continued to fall, but inside, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Dr. Sujin had arranged for hot drinks and comfortable seating, but none of the aliens seemed able to relax. Commander Veltar was the first to speak. His red skin had dimmed to a dull orange, and his heating suit was finally quiet. I need to understand something, he said slowly. Those activities we just witnessed, you called them sports. That is correct, Dr. Sujin confirmed, sipping her tea calmly. Sports means recreation, entertainment, fun, Carathan said, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, Ubin agreed. People do winter sports because they enjoy them. Veltar leaned forward in his chair. But the speeds, the risks, the physical forces involved, these are not recreational activities. These are survival challenges of the highest order. For you, perhaps, Minho said gently. For us, they are games. The aliens exchanged glances. A delegate from the Thermal Alliance spoke up. On our worlds, we have elite military units that train for extreme cold operations. They use the most advanced equipment and spend years preparing. Even then, they would never attempt what we saw your athletes do today. Our athletes do train for years, Doyen pointed out. But they start as children. By the time they are adults, these activities feel natural to them. Children, Carathon repeated. You let your young participate in these dangerous activities. We start them with easier versions, Dr. Sujin explained. Sea-Rolled does not ski down the same slopes as Hihono. But yes, children learn these sports from a young age. Key Cryogenic Federation scientist pulled out a data pad and began showing calculations to his colleagues. I've been analyzing the physical stresses we observed. The figure skater was experiencing forces that should cause organ damage. The hockey players were taking impacts that would hospitalize our strongest warriors. And yet they all seemed happy, observed another alien. They were happy, Yubin confirmed. Winter sports athletes love what they do. They train hard because they want to improve. Tet, they compete because they enjoy the challenge. Challen Veltar said the word like. It was foreign to him. You seek out challenges for enjoyment, do not? Dr. Sujan asked, genuinely curious. The aliens looked at each other uncomfortably. We seek to overcome challenges, Carathan explained. We develop technology to make difficult things easier. We find ways to avoid hardship. We embrace hardship, Minho said simply. We turn it into opportunity. But why? Demanded the Thermal Alliance engineer. Why would any species voluntarily make things harder for themselves? Dr. Sujin considered the question carefully, because difficulty makes us stronger. When we overcome challenges, we grow. When we master something that once seemed impossible, we feel joy. Joy, Kyrathon repeated. You find joy in surviving what should kill you. You find joy in proving that it cannot kill us, Doyen corrected. The room fell quiet again. The aliens were beginning to understand something fundamental about humans. That changed everything they thought they knew about cold weather mastery. Here people have been fighting over ice worlds for 30 years, Dr. Sujin said quietly. You both claim to be superior in cold environments. But what does that really mean? It means we can survive where others cannot, Veltar said automatically. It means we can function efficiently in freezing conditions, Carathon added. Survival and efficiency, Yubin nodded. These are important things, but they are not the only things. She gestured toward the window, where they could see the ski slopes in the distance. Out there, humans are not just surviving in the cold. They are not just functioning efficiently. They are thriving. They are playing. They are pushing themselves to be better than they were yesterday. You have turned survival into art, observed a delegate quietly. We have turned challenge into celebration, Minho agreed. Commander Veltar stood up and walked to the window. His reflection showed a figure still bundled in protective gear, while outside, humans moved freely through the snow in simple clothes. My people have the most advanced heating technology in the galaxy, he said. We can warm entire planets, but we still need our suits to be comfortable in this weather. Your heating systems are very impressive, Dr. Sujin said diplomatically, but they are crutches, Veltar continued. We rely on them completely. If our technology fails, we cannot survive. But you have made your bodies and minds the technology, Akarathon joined him at the window. My people evolved in ice. We can survive in cold that would kill most species instantly. but we still avoid unnecessary risks. We still seek comfort and safety. Yet we saw your athletes deliberately seek out the most dangerous conditions they could find, added a Cryogenic Federation observer. And then make them more dangerous by adding speed and tricks, Veltar finished. 'Cause danger makes it more exciting, Euban explained. Easy things are boring. Hard things are fun. The aliens were quiet for a long moment, processing this completely foreign concept. There is something else, Dr. Sujan said, gently. Something that I think you need to understand about winter sports. What is that? Carathon asked. They bring people together. When humans compete in winter sports, they are not trying to destroy each other. They are trying to push each other to be better. Competitors often become friends. Rivals respect each other. Even in ice hockey, asked a delegate. We saw them hitting each other very hard. Especially in ice hockey, Doyan laughed. After the game, the players often go out for drinks together. It's the harder they compete, the more they respect each other. This competition creates bonds instead of breaking them, Minho added. Veltar turned away from the window. In our Cold War, we compete to prove the other side is inferior. We fight to show that we are better. In our sports, we compete to make everyone better, Dr. Sujin said. We push ourselves and our opponents to reach new levels. Koyas, not to defeat the other person, Euban explained. The goal is to defeat our own limitations. A long silence fell over the room. The aliens were beginning to understand that their entire approach to cold weather mastery had been fundamentally wrong. You do not conquer cold, Carathon said slowly. You dance with it. You do not defeat winter, Veltar added. You celebrate it. Now you are beginning to understand. Dr. Sujin smiled. The aliens looked at each other with new eyes. For 30 years, they had been fighting over who could better control cold environments. But these humans had shown them something completely different. They had shown them how to find joy in the very conditions that other species feared. We have been thinking about this all wrong, Carathon admitted. We have been fighting the wrong war, Veltar agreed. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside the conference room, something had changed. The aliens were no longer seeing winter as an enemy to be defeated or a challenge to be overcome with technology. They were beginning to see it as an opportunity to discover what they were truly capable of. The revelation was complete. Now they had to decide what to do with this new understanding. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any meeting in the organization's history. Representatives from 12 species filled the Great Hall. But all eyes were focused on two groups who had been mortal enemies just days before. Commander Veltar of the Thermal Alliance stood at the speaker's podium, but his usual aggressive stance was gone. His red skin glowed with a calm, steady light instead of the angry flares that council members had grown accustomed to. Beside him, high, frozen Carathon waited patiently, ice crystals forming gentle patterns around her instead of the sharp, angry shards she usually created. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Veltar began, his voice carrying none of its usual hostility. The Thermal Alliance has an important announcement to make. The hall buzzed with nervous energy. Everyone expected another declaration of war, another escalation in the cold conflict that had dragged on for 30 years. After witnessing human winter sports on the planet Earth, Veltar continued, the Thermal Alliance formally declares an immediate end to all hostile actions against the Cryogenic Federation. The hall erupted in shocked murmurs. Several delegates dropped their translation devices. Others leaned forward in disbelief. Carathon stepped up to join Veltar at the podium. The Cryogenic Federation agrees with this declaration. We also announce the immediate cessation of all military and economic actions against the Thermal Alliance. The council leader, still green and still too many arms, looked completely stunned. Both sides are declaring peace at the same time. Yes, Veltar confirmed. We have learned something important from the humans. We have been fighting the wrong war. For 30 years, we believed that mastery of cold environments meant controlling them through technology or natural adaptation. Karathan explained. We thought the question was, who could better survive in harsh conditions? But the humans showed us a different way. Veltar continued. They showed us that true mastery means embracing challenges instead of avoiding them. It means finding joy in difficulty instead of just enduring it. Ambassador Jeho sat quietly in the human section, watching the proceedings with the same calm expression he had worn throughout the crisis. He had expected this outcome, but he was still amazed at how quickly the aliens had learned. A delegate from the Thermal Alliance raised his hand. Commander, what exactly did you see on Earth that changed your position so dramatically? Veltare's skin brightened with what could only be described as enthusiasm. We saw humans turn survival into celebration. We watched them deliberately seek out the most dangerous winter conditions they could find, not to prove their superiority, but to discover what they were capable of. We saw children learning to find joy in activities that would challenge our most elite soldiers, Karathan added. We watched athletes push themselves to incredible limits, not to defeat enemies, but to become better than they were before. But how does this relate to the Ice World conflict? Asked a confused council member. It changes everything, Veltar replied. We have been fighting over who deserves to control those worlds, but the humans taught us that the real question is how we can learn from those worlds. Karathan nodded in agreement. Instead of fighting over resources, we should be working together to discover what harsh environments can teach us about ourselves. The Thermal Alliance military advisor stood up. Commander, with respect, we have invested enormous resources in this conflict. Our entire defense strategy has been built around securing those ice worlds. Okay, and that was our mistake, Veltar replied firmly. We were thinking like conquerors instead of thinking like learners. The humans showed us that the greatest victories come from conquering our own limitations, not from defeating others. What exactly are you proposing? The council leader asked. Karathan stepped forward. The Cryogenic Federation proposes the establishment of joint research colonies on all disputed ice worlds. Instead of military bases, we will build learning centers. Learning centers, places where both our species can study together, Veltar explained. We want to learn from human techniques for thriving in harsh environments. We want to understand how they turn challenges into opportunities. And we want human instructors to teach us their winter sports, Karathan added, her voice carrying an excitement that shocked the other delegates. The hall fell silent as the implications sank in. The two most militaristic factions in the galaxy were proposing to replace their armies with schools. If you want to learn human recreational activities, asked a bewildered delegate. We want to learn the human approach to challenge, Veltar corrected. Their winter sports are just examples of a much deeper philosophy. Ambassador Jeho finally stood up. If I may speak, honored council members. Please, the council leader said quickly. The human government is honored by these proposals, Jeho said formally. We would be happy to provide instructors and assistants for any species that wants to learn winter sports. But we have one condition, he continued with a slight smile. The hall tensed. Here was the catch, the price that Earth would demand for their knowledge. Our condition is that these learning centers must be open to all species, Jeho said. We will not teach winter sports as military training. We will only teach them as they were meant to be taught, as games, as celebrations, as ways to bring people together instead of dividing them. Veltar and Karathan exchanged glances, then both nodded eagerly. Accept, Veltar said immediately. Completely, Karathan agreed. The council leader looked around the hall in amazement. Are there any objections to this proposal? No one spoke. The transformation was too sudden, to complete for anyone to process quickly. Then, let the record show, the council leader announced that the Galactic Cold War is officially ended. The Deathworlder Accord is hereby established, making Earth a neutral training ground for extreme environment techniques. The applause that followed was thunderous. 30 years of tension had ended, not with conquest or compromise, but with a completely new understanding of what it meant to master harsh environments. 3 months later, the first interspecies winter sports tournament was held in the same Korean mountains where the alien delegates had first witnessed human winter sports. Athletes from 12 different worlds competed in events that would have been unimaginable just months before. Commander Valter, now wearing simple winter clothes instead of his heating suit, stood at the top of a beginner's ski slope. His instructor, a patient human named Yoonji, was teaching him how to balance on the thin boards. "Remember," Yoonji said encouragingly, "falling is part of learning. Do not be afraid of the snow." Velter nodded nervously and pushed off. He made it almost 10 meters before tumbling into a soft snowbank. Instead of the anger that his people expected, he emerged from the snow laughing. "Again," he said, brushing ice crystals from his now mint skin. "I want to try again." Karathan was learning snowboarding from an instructor named Dong-yoon. Her natural balance served her well, but she was still amazed by how much there was to learn. "The snow speaks to you," she told Dong-yoon after a successful run. "Each turn teaches you something new." "Now you understand," Dong-yoon smiled. Winter sports are conversations with the mountain. In the lodge that evening, former enemies shared meals and stories. Young aliens who had grown up hearing about the evil of the other side now played together in the snow, learning that differences could be sources of strength instead of conflict. Ambassador Cho watched from the lodge window as children from 12 different worlds built snowmen together. Some had never seen snow before arriving on Earth, but they were all laughing as they learned. "You did something remarkable," Dr. Sujan said, joining him at the window. "We all did," Jiho replied. "Sometimes the best way to end a war is to show people a better way to use their energy." Outside, the snow continued to fall, but now it fell on a galaxy where former enemies were learning to find joy in the very conditions they had once used as weapons against each other. The Cold War was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and it had all started with humans doing what they did best, turning the impossible into play.